Step 3 is to prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation. But would this not include all sexual behaviour? Sex before 8 or else it's too late is the motto of the North American Man-Boy Love Association. Should we judge paedophilia or be relativists and promote anything goes sexual experimentation? Sir, to protect homosexuals, some countries have criminalised not sodomy, but opposition to sodomy, making it a hate crime to criticise homosexuality. This violates freedom of speech and religion. Will sacred texts that declare homosexuality morally deviant, like the Bible and Quran, be criminalised? Social unrest beckons. Such assault on constitutional liberties cannot be tolerated. Steps 4 and 5 relate to legalizing same-sex marriage and child adoption rights. This subverts both marriage and family, which are institutions homosexuals seek to redefine beyond recognition. Will MOE then commission a book copying the American Heather Has Two Mummies called Ah Beng Has Two Daddies? What if parents disagree with their kids studying homosexual propaganda? Is legalizing same-sex marriage progressive? It is if you want a genderless planet where husband and wife are considered discriminatory terms to be replaced by spouse. We want to be able to say Majulah Singapura, not Mundur Singapura. Repealing 377A will further batter the institution of marriage, which we must bolster. This is because the arguments raised to challenge a distinction between heterosexual and homosexual sodomy equally apply to challenge legal distinctions between lawful heterosexual marriage between man and wife and unlawful homosexual unions. To reinforce the moral foundations of a pro-family policy that permits only heterosexuals to marry, it is permissible to differentiate between heterosexual and homosexual sodomy. To say that 377A discriminates effectively also says that marriage laws discriminate and are unconstitutional. Legalizing sodomy would set a bad example by signaling approval. It may change both attitude and conduct. Coupled with sexual hedonism, this mocks strong family values. 377A helps to protect against this harm. Academic supporters of the homosexual agenda, like my colleague Michael Hall, argued online that even if 377A was not enforced, discriminatory policies against homosexuals could be built on the logic of its existence. But, taking his logic, repealing 377A would mean the government would be less able to resist claims for homosexual marriage or for promoting homosexuality as a desirable lifestyle in school, as this would be discriminatory. These foreign developments warn us that the advance of the homosexual agenda here is not remote. To slouch back to Sodom is to return to the bad old days in ancient Greece or even China, where sex was utterly wild and unrestrained, and homosexuality was considered superior to man-woman relations. Women's groups should note that when homosexuality was celebrated, women were relegated to low social roles. When homosexuality was idolized in Greece, women were objects, not partners who ran homes and bore babies. Back then, whether a man had sex with another man, woman, beast or child was a matter of indifference, like one's eating preferences. The only relevant category was penetrator and penetrated. Sex was not seen as interactive intimacy, but the doing of something to someone. How degrading. It was only when marriage was invented by the Jewish Torah that the genie of sexual impulses was forced into the marital bottle so that sex no longer dominated society. This discipline provided the social base for the development of Western civilization. Family is also the building block of our society. As fellow citizens, homosexuals are entitled to expect decent treatment from the rest of us. But they have no right to insist we surrender our fundamental moral beliefs so they can feel comfortable about their sexual behavior. We should not be subject to the tyranny of the undemocratic minority who want to violate our consciences, trample cherished moral virtues, and threaten our collective welfare by imposing homosexual dogma on right-thinking people. Keep 377A. Sir, we Singaporeans will continue to debate and disagree over controversial moral issues as they arise. We should make substantive arguments, not think with our feelings. The media should present both sides fairly, without bias. However, I have noted a disturbing phenomenon over the 377A debate. The argument by insult. Instead of reasoning, some have resorted to name-calling to intimidate and silence their opponents. People with principled moral objections to the homosexual agenda are tarred and feathered homophobe, bigot, to shut them up. This strategy is unoriginally imported from foreign gay activists, which stifles creative thinking and intellectual inquiry. When you shout and call your opponents nasty names, this terminates public debate. No one wants to be called a bigot. But think about it. If I oppose incest, am I an incestophobe? If I oppose alcoholism, am I a winophobe? If having an opinion means you are a bigot, then we are all bigots. What is your phobia? Where certain liberals accuse their opponents of being intolerant, they demonstrate their own intolerance towards their opponents. They are hoist on their own petard, guilty of everything they accuse their detractors of, full of sun and fury, signifying nothing. One of my colleagues, a young professor, suffered these vicious attacks when the Straits Times published an article this May, where Yvonne Lee argued against repealing 377A. This well-researched, cogent article so incensed homosexual activists that they flooded her with a torrent of abusive, lewd emails and wrote to her department head calling for her to be removed from her job. This appeared to be a coordinated campaign. We academics are used to disagreement, but why write to her employer and threaten her livelihood? Why vilify someone and seek to assassinate their personal and professional reputation? I hope this House joins me in deploring these malicious attacks which also assault academic freedom. She is owed an apology. I would be ashamed to belong to any academic institution that cravenly bowed down to such disgraceful bully boy tactics. This August, I had my own personal, unpleasant experience with this sort of hysterical attack. I received an email from someone I never met, full of vile and obscene invective which I shall not repeat, accusing me of hate-mongering. It cursed me and expressed the wish to defile my grave on the day 377A was repealed. I believe in free debate, but this oversteps the line. I was distressed, disgusted, upset enough to file a police report. Does a normal person with a conscience to filter impulses go up to a stranger to express such irrational hatred? Smear tactics indicate the poor quality of debate and also of character. Let us have rational debate, not diatribe and deception, free from abusive rhetoric and childish tantrums. As Singapore approaches her jubilee, my hope for the post-65 generation is that we will not become an uncivil civil society born from an immature culture of vulgarity which celebrates the base, not the noble. I speak at the risk.
Order. You have 3 minutes more, Professor.
Thank you. I speak at the risk of being burned at the stake by militant activists, but if we don't stand for something, we will fall for anything. I was raised to believe in speaking out for what is right, good and true, no matter the cost. It is important in life not only to have a brain, but a spine. One of my favorite speeches by PM Lee, which I forced my students to read, is his Harvard Club speech 2 years ago, where he urged citizens not to be passive bystanders in their own fate, but to debate issues with reason and conviction. I took this to heart. To forge good policy, we need to do our homework and engage in honest debate on the issues. Let us also speak with civility, which cannot be legislated, but draws deep from our character and upbringing. Before government can govern man, man must be able to govern himself. Sir, let speaking in the public square with reason, passion, honesty, civility, even grace, be the mark of a citizen of Singapore. Thank you, sir.